Valley Prepping and Survival. We got a special guest with us today. This is my good buddy, Travis Medic from strategicetc.com. He is the official medical trainer for Hudson Valley Prepping and Survival. If you take a class with Hudson Valley Prepping and Survival, this is the guy you're going to see teaching it. So if you guys have any questions for Travis, tonight's the night. It's not medical advice per se. It is first aid advice.
Yeah, general
First aid advice. Travis teaches a lot of classes. If you guys want some quality medical training, because you need quality medical training, strategicetc.com. You just put a www in front of it.
It's on his shirt.
etc.com. That's right. It's in the link. It's in the bio. It's all over. Hello, Mama Bear Prepping. How are you? Or Mama Bear J15. Sorry. How are you?
Hello.
Yeah, guys. This is impromptu. Wednesday nights kind of aren't our thing, but when you can pry a guy like this away from his work, it's big. So we're going to go through some kind of scenarios tonight. Travis does this a lot with his classes, and I think it's going to be good to go through with you guys. We're looking, we in the community are always looking for SHTF kind of
Absolutely.
medicine. How can we make do with what we have at the time? So that's going to be a big thing that I think you guys are going to throw at Travis here tonight is when, how, and why can we do things to help somebody else when we don't have a lot of tools at our disposal. Let's see. Sorry, guys, I had to refresh the chat here.
Hello, Upper Peninsula of Michigan. When are y'all going to invade Canada? We're waiting on you.
New Hampshire, Northern California, Illinois in the chat. Virginia Bushcrafter. I wonder where he's from. Virginia in
Texas.
the house. Texas, without a doubt, Texas.
From
Deanna Walters, hello from the UP. It's beautiful up there. I've been there. I've been to Escanaba. Beautiful place.
What's the UP?
Can this fella give me some marital advice?
I don't know if you want it from me. I can try.
William Alexander, yes, Travis will give you marital advice. I don't know if you should accept it, but he will give it to you willingly.
I'm going to give you what I was told is marriage is the #1 cause of divorce.
Yes.
That is 100% factual, guys. Yeah, I guess you can't get divorced if you're not married, right? So,
I mean,
yeah.
some states have common law. I don't know how that works.
Where?
Is it like a really bad breakup?
I guess so.
You just leave.
I guess so. Tank says get a divorce. 45 minutes northeast of Escanaba.
What is UP?
Gladstone sounds like to me. Gladstone, right? Isn't that the town that's up there?
UP, what is that?
Upper Peninsula of Michigan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I even said it. I didn't put it together. Sorry. Travis, do you mind telling us just a quick blurb about your company and what you do?
Yeah. Well, first off, guys, thanks for having me here.
Oh, no problem.
First and foremost,
Anytime.
Honor.
to everybody chiming in, this is amazing to see where all these folks are coming from. I really appreciate you guys letting me, and girls, folks, really giving me the privilege to come and talk to you.
I call them motherfuckers.
Motherfuckers. Maybe if I wasn't wearing my company logo, it'd be a little more. So first and foremost, I just want to make sure it's super clear that I know it's labeled as medical advice, but really it's some first aid skills and some things I've learned over a lengthy career. I've been really lucky. I've been in emergency services almost 17 years. If you count back going on fire calls with my dad, way more than that. And this is back when, we put the blue light on the car and we'd go on a fire ground. He'd say, "Do not get out of the car." And I'd sit there and, I learned a lot. And my grandfather worked in emergency services way back before it was a thing. Back when, they put a red light on a hearse and literally throw you in the back and they drive you to the hospital and there was no care. So I've been really fortunate. I started this company with a very good friend of mine, Ryan. He's my partner in crime in this.
Excellent.
We really, really work very well together. My experiences, his experiences jive between the two of us. We have over 50 years of emergency medical
That's incredible.
training and service. I've been privileged enough to make it a career, but I've also volunteered over the years. I've worked in municipalities. I volunteered. I've been a diver, an underwater rescue recovery diver. I've been an instructor for a while. The nice thing is, I actually own another company. We do special event medical management. So like snow crosses, motocrosses, really high-end events in New York City for parties. We've done some stuff with some really high-end security companies where we were there but we weren't there.
Gotcha.
So I've been really lucky to have all of these EMS and fire and law enforcement experiences in my life that I can bring over to training. So when I do a training for an event, like an industrial event or an industrial site where they're worried about like degloving. So that's an injury. So like, I'm not going to say the company's names, but certain paper mills, that's an injury they're going to have. Degloving occurs when it's very much what it sounds like. It's basically your hand or your part of your body is pinched between two significant forces and the skin on the hand is removed.
Ooh.
And so when I teach different environmental companies, I can kind of take what I've learned over my training and experiences, and we can make that their training. So like earlier today, I was at a venue. They do a lot of private functions, and so we've tried to focus their training on things that are going to come up. So slip and falls, intox folks. And then when I do groups like this, like-minded individuals, we're going to have a lot less access to equipment. So it's what are the necessities that we really have to have? What are some things that we can make work in that situation, whether we do stop the bleed or we do first aid or wilderness first aid, and make it more about some of the things that we're going to come in contact with, such as hiking and penetrating injuries, or the things that nobody likes to admit happens at the gun ranges, negligent discharges.
Yeah.
You know, how do we deal with those kind of situations? Because accidents happen.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, they do.
accidents can be preventable, but things happen. You could be walking in your kitchen and stab yourself in the leg with a fork.
Yeah.
I mean, I obviously will never have that problem.
That's French for a real bad
The
day.
skinny
folks.
guy might have that problem. I'm not going to have that problem.
I try to stay away from utensils in general.
Plastic works good, but it breaks off really easy.
Yeah, then I've got half a plastic fork in my leg. I mean, what kind of fun is that? Let's just go for the whole metal one. You know?
I like it.
But Travis has been the trainer at our events. He's actually come out and hosted free Stop the Bleed classes with certs, which was pretty awesome. The certs are expensive, guys. They cost him a fortune to get them. So at some point, I'm hoping to twist his arm into some medical training, maybe without certs, just for the Hudson Valley prepping and survival community.
Absolutely doable.
So we're gonna.
They asked me to stop interrupting, but a cert versus not cert, difference?
I guess. Well,
So
I assume it's a legal thing.
yes and no.
Thing.
Yes and no. So I'm a believer. So I work for some other corporate entities.
Okay.
So basically, you go to this corporate entities. I'm sure you can figure out who they are. They're pretty out there. It's pretty easy to see. A little easier to see than us. And so if you call them and say, "Hey, my company is ABC Welding,"
okay.
and we're a non-union shop, but because of where we are in the world, because we do travel states, we cover most of the East Coast, and they say, "Hey, we only need adult CPR and first aid. That's all we want."
Okay.
But we have some folks that have kids, so can the instructor maybe touch on that? So that really becomes a gray area for an instructor when you're teaching for bigger companies, because you call this company, say, "I only want adult CPR and first aid, because that's all I need." And if we add on the pediatrics, that company's going to charge an additional fee, because that card's a little bit more expensive.
Gotcha.
So they're going to say, "Okay, but do you want pediatrics?" And the company's going to say, "Well, this is X and this is Z, so we're going to do the bare minimum."
Okay.
And we have to have the certification.
Gotcha.
So to make a long story longer, my organization, if you hire us, you come to us, you say, "Hey, Strategic, this is what we do, but we only want to do adult CPR. Or we only want to do adult first aid." We will very politely tell you the pros and cons of why we understand your company's needs, but we're not going to charge you more. Our prices, our fee is our fee per student, but really we don't know what emergency they're going to have.
Correct.
And most folks have kids, grandkids, sons, daughters, nieces, nephews.
Yeah, people they have to look after.
So
Absolutely.
the thought process that our company has, as our Theos, is we don't know what emergency you're going to have. So I want to train you at least, even if we're basic CPR and first aid, I want you to be able to have an emergency you can handle at the grocery store.
Exactly.
Or at church. And I think that by giving folks the option, while understanding that not everybody needs maybe to do CPR or
Right.
choking on an infant is huge.
Yeah.
Leading cause for children to go into sudden cardiac arrest other than SIDS is usually choking. Happened to
Okay.
me. So the certification levels are there. But if you do want to do like a friends and family,
Yeah.
so that's great for new parents.
Okay.
So like, we're having a baby and we want mom and dad trained, grandpa trained.
Exactly.
When we don't have to have a certification because it's not for work, it's not for
Yeah.
the union, it's not for the state.
It's for the knowledge.
Exactly, and
Yeah.
the knowledge is free at that point. So a very small fee. Basically, you're covering the instructor's time and fuel.
Excellent.
And a lot of times it'll be one of our more experienced instructors that'll donate some time and say, hey, this is going to be the fee. We'll give you a certificate. So it's nice to show you, like, say you have some kids at home that want to do some training with us.
Right.
If they do the CPR with us, we'll give them a certificate of completion.
Oh,
So they
very
really
cool.
feel
Very
like they
cool.
were involved in it.
Yep.
Big brother, big sister.
Yeah, that's a
Maybe
big thing,
worried
guys.
about they're gonna be left out when the baby comes home. They're involved in it, and you don't have to have that level of certification. So it's
Very
kind of a cool thing.
So so then certification essentially boils down, and it's often like that your job or some legal entity kind of wants.
It's 100%
Test or
accredited.
anything?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's met. So like we'll use American Heart Association. That's really the big one for medical providers.
Okay.
That one you want to be certified in because that states that the instructor has taken and been approved as an instructor for American Heart.
Yep.
That they've reached all the criteria and demonstrated to an instructor that's above them. And then when you take that training, the card that they will receive basically verifies that they met the levels of the care that they're providing and that they've been done by an accredited instructor.
Excellent.
So
Also, this will also lead to standardization.
yes, but there's different times. So you have like American Red Cross and you have ASHI, National Safety Council. But for everybody watching, and I know I just said knowledge is awesome, don't think that the training that you can get on a $10 platform online is going to be quality
Yeah,
training, even if they give you a card.
Exactly. Hands-on, folks. Hands-on.
Absolutely.
And we're going to work with Travis the best we can to get another event with him out and get you guys some actual hands-on first aid training in the field. I think it's vital for everybody to learn. We did the wilderness first aid thing,
it was
but
great.
a lot of folks don't really need that level. But if you're an outdoorsman, if you're a hunter, a hiker, a fisherman, wilderness first aid is a great course to take.
Absolutely.
And I can't thank you enough for that training.
Oh, it's
man.
great.
It's
Those are my favorite classes.
it's come in handy a couple times already. I don't have any saves, but some of the knowledge has come in handy already. So it pays, guys. It pays to get quality medical training, quality firearms training. Those are two things you absolutely should not skimp on. And www.strategicetc.com. And you guys can get in touch with Travis yourselves and get your own medical classes. He will come to your house to teach you. He doesn't care. If you need training, he will be there for you, especially if you're in the tri-state area, right?
Absolutely.
You service what, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut?
It's New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, Rhode Island, Maryland.
New England.
New
basically
England,
New England.
and then some. So if any of you guys in that listening area need medical training, he is the guy to reach out to. He really knows his stuff, and we're gonna test him on his knowledge here in a minute.
I'm gonna do it right now.
Okay.
Oh boy.
All right, here we go.
Wilderness first aid.
Okay.
Give me a brief versus I guess what conventional first aid. What's different here? Limited resources, more like a improvisation.
So
thing.
the wilderness first aid, we really get more in depth on like splinting, makeshift tourniquets, really dealing with like penetrating injuries, like the course that we had at the bug out last year was really cool. We had a really great experience, and we were at a paintball field. So we used a really unconventional scenario, and basically what it was is one person shot their friend in a very sensitive area, and the friend, who we thought had a paintball pistol, returned fire, only to find out that he was actually carrying his firearm. Of course, this was a scenario that didn't actually happen.
Yep.
So you two don't freak out. And we took that scenario, while probably not very plausible, but it was still a really good scenario to play
absolutely.
off. And we were able to basically show with a minimal first aid kit how we could get through that. But the other big thing is if you're out in the woods hiking and you have an emergency situation, what are some things that we can deal with it? Like if we fall onto a tree limb, which is something that is very, very plausible in the wilderness, how can we deal with that? We get more into penetrating injuries, how to make splints, flexible splints. And it's just more focused towards being in the outdoors, where your generic CPR first aid AED is really an OSHA level standard.
Okay,
so
all indoor, in work environment.
Yeah, I mean, there is some stuff on the outside like tick removal, bites, burns, hypothermia, extreme heat temperatures, things like that. But it's also an advanced level of training when we get into wilderness first aid. So wilderness first aid is 2 days, 2 full days.
Yep.
So it's about 16 or so hours, depending on what curriculum you're taking. But the first aid CPR AED for all ages, that's a 6.5-hour course.
Yeah.
And that's just you have to take that before you can take wilderness. You actually have to be pre-trained.
Yeah, so that's over 20 hours of training, guys, that you get when you take a wilderness first aid course. Hang on 1 second here. We do got some questions in the chat.
Ask me anything. What do they ask?
Let's see. Steve wants to know, can you give a quick list of medical courses to take in order from basic to most advanced that would be applicable to a civilian prepper / outdoorsman?
That's a tough one. So you have to judge what your goals are in the long term, because you can easily drop tens of thousands of dollars in training over several years. From a civilian standpoint, I don't think really anybody can go wrong with CPR first aid all ages, just the basic curriculum for your everyday, I want to say families, mom, dad, the kids. And the nice thing about the basic level training is we can have children in those classes as long as they can perform the skills cognitively.
Okay.
And they can demonstrate on a mannequin good CPR ratios, so good compressions or rescue breaths.
Okay.
And in some cases pass an actual written test. We actually did a class at a fire department a couple of months ago. It was a basic life support. So that class is for your fire departments, your nurses, your healthcare, and that class is from basic CNA, which has a very hard job to begin with. They're in the medical field, all the way up to surgeons. They all have to take
the same course,
basic life support CPR. And we had 2 young gentlemen there. I believe they were 8 and 10, might have been 10 and 12. They were family members of the people taking the course, and they sat through the entire course, did all of the evolutions, and they were actually certified.
That's incredible.
So, but to answer your question, Stephen, you can't go wrong with CPR first aid all ages to begin with. And then with that, I would add on Stop the Bleed. Stop the Bleed, we offer completely free of charge. It's actually a spin-off of the Department of Defense. Stop the Bleed is an absolutely amazing course. We actually deal with penetrating injuries such as gunshots could be one of them, or one that's really overlooked, and even in this community, is folks that are using a bow and arrow and archery, right?
Yeah, impalements.
You're basically taking, I believe it's called
the broadhead.
The broadhead.
Yeah.
And when that hits an object, it's still spinning, so it's a dirty shred when it comes through.
Yeah, they're designed to make you hemorrhage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's
scary, guys.
A clean kill on an animal. But if that happens, crossbows are becoming more and more prevalent.
Yeah.
So that's a really good reason to have a Stop the Bleed class. Or if you're into firearms.
Yep.
I teach a lot of classes in Vermont and Massachusetts, which are constitutional carry states mostly. And my big thing is when I teach my class, I say, hey, if anybody here is concealed carry, pro Second Amendment, I have respect for you. But if you've taken the responsibility, say, I'm going to carry a firearm, usually you're doing it to protect your family or your livestock, your livelihood.
Yep.
but you're not taking the additional training to do stop the bleed or carry a tourniquet, then you're giving your family, yourself, and potentially other bystanders a disservice.
Yeah.
Because you got the fancy firearm and the flashlight and the laser and the cool
That's right.
holster, right? But did you put any training in utilizing that in the field? What happens if, and I hate to say this, when we had the Batman shooting years back,
Yeah.
we really didn't have a lot of people that were trained
Yeah. It's
in
tough.
the vicinity. A tourniquet, and we just realized this with what happened in New York City in the subway. A gentleman took a T-shirt, I believe it was a T-shirt or a flannel,
and
and
made
was-
a tourniquet.
and made a tourniquet. He was doing
Yeah.
direct pressure. He was constituting the basics to stop the bleed. So CPR first aid all ages, followed by stop the bleed. That's a
Okay.
good foundation.
Okay.
And then wilderness first aid, if you're going to be outdoors, is a really good course.
Is there anything comparable to wilderness first aid, like a more advanced first aid for
So there is.
okay.
So we have what's called the EMR. So the EMR is Emergency Medical Responder.
Okay.
And all of the big organizations really put it out. So American Red Cross, ASHI is the preferred one that I like.
All right.
And it's really equivalent, and I have to word this very, very carefully. It's equivalent to the certified first responder that most states offer.
Okay.
Now, the emergency medical responder course that we offer is not state certified. So you can't take
Use it
it
in
and
New
go
York
jump on it.
State.
Well, you can't go jump
Okay.
on an ambulance.
Gotcha.
So- Perfect example is Pennsylvania does have an emergency medical responder classification,
Okay.
but while it's the same verbiage and the same title, it's a different certification. It has to be put on by a state.
Okay.
sanction.
Very good.
But the EMR course is about 45 to 50 hours, and that's when we get into airway management, we get into splinting controls, airway, we start getting into blood glucose and the different numerics of that,
All right.
checking the vitals, so blood pressure, respiratory rate, heart rate, and we start to talk about the differences in what they do or do not mean. Because the new curriculum
Attention.
we've taken out checking for a pulse in
Yeah.
most curriculums.
That's a big thing.
And then after EMR, really, if you're at that point, then you can start looking at like TCCC, which is Tactical Casualty Care or Casualty Care Under Fire. And those are amazing courses.
Incredible.
They're all about, dealing with firearms, multiple victims down, MCIs in a more tactical environment.
MCI is a multiple casualty incident.
Mass casualty incident.
Mass-
Yeah,
Okay.
same thing, just different verbiage,
We got a couple questions
Yeah.
in the chat here. Prepper 101, what's happening, my friend? How are you? Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Rick S wants to know, what is the best tourniquet? Cat 7, Israeli, etc.
So that's a good question, and I'll be completely honest with you. So first of all, please, everyone watching, empty all your first aid stuff out of Amazon right now. The reason for that is I've actually seen during training, luckily it was not a live person, the tourniquets, the cat tourniquets on Amazon actually fail.
The
Because-
windlass snap?
Well, they're just fake.
Okay.
They put the
okay.
cool logo on there and they make it look like it's an actual cat
Amazon's a
tourniquet.
scammer's paradise these days. Make sure what you're
Unfortunately.
buying is real, because
Yeah.
that kind of shit can happen, and that's a no-go.
So there's a lot of different tourniquets out there. The cat tourniquet's combat application tourniquet by North American Rescue, in my personal opinion, is the go-to.
Okay, that's the industry standard,
The
guys.
drawback is they're not designed for kids. They right in there, they're not designed for small children. And the reason for that is because of the band.
Okay.
That actually caused the constriction. You can't get it down far enough to cause good constriction. So that is when we would get into like a rat tourniquet. So
Okay.
a rat tourniquet's like the rubber the rubber tubing.
Okay, yeah,
And it's
you
got
gotta
the little
pull it
cinch
real,
on it.
real tight.
You've
Okay.
seen those COVID-19 junkies using those.
So there you have it, folks. You're looking for a cat tourniquet for an adult, and you're looking for a rat's tourniquet
RAT, yep.
for children. Because like Travis said, they're too small, and you can't get enough with that big band to crank down and stop that bleed.
And to offer you some help on that, the person asked that question, 2 sites you can go to, check them both out, see who has the best price, North American Rescue, or you can also go to stopthebleed.org. From all my experience, they're usually a little bit less expensive, and sometimes you can get free shipping. I believe they offer a military discount, but they do a lot of stuff in the life-saving area. That's who we're trained by for Stop the Bleed. We have to be accredited to teach it, and that's why we can offer it for free. Stop the Bleed
Excellent.
is a free class. There's more advanced levels of that. The Navy SEAL, I know he offers a version of that. I'm not going to put his name out in case he gets mad at me. But it's a great course, and it really just, you need to train on it. So if you're going to buy something,
Yeah.
so train
Make sure
on it.
you know how to use it.
All these guys,
We've said it before. If you don't know how to use your first aid kit,
absolutely,
don't carry it.
absolutely.
Give it to somebody who knows how to use it and let them carry it. I can't stress that enough. If you don't know how to use it, it's useless. Hang on one second. I'm going to jump back here into the chat. I got another one. So is bleed stop powder any good is a question we have from Rapture Ready.
So that's actually a thing that I saw in the post earlier. I was trying to do a little bit of research on it because I'm not really sure what we're talking about. I believe what we're talking about is the powder that is very similar to the ones that vets and groomers use for very, very light abrasions on an animal, such as a dog, is usually we're going to see him, or when we cut the quick, is what I'm assuming. I've never actually seen it used in the field. So the original form of quick clot, most of you have probably seen the movie Shooter with that very handsome Wahlberg.
Yep.
Right? And in that movie, he actually, when he's in the police car in the car wash, he dumps the granular. That was
clot.
Old school. We don't use it anymore.
Okay.
So that was how quick clot originally came out. So now what we have is we actually have what's called quick clot. It is a bandage type material.
All right.
And it's actually treated. It's made by the Z-Meta company, I believe. I know I messed their name.
It's the Z-Fold gauze.
Yes,
right?
Z-Fold gauze.
Gotcha.
And it's treated to increase clotting. The issue with that is you want to be trained before you use it because we're actually, at that level, we're inserting it into a hole, basically.
Correct.
So gunshot wound, stabbing, something that's penetrating in most areas, and it is area specific.
Okay.
So we got to, again, this is where Stop the Bleed comes into play because we can't just shove things in every hole that we've made, regardless of how we did it.
I can.
You don't want him shoving things in
We'll
your
shove
hole.
anything in any hole.
And then the nice thing is it comes in three versions. We have a civilian version, we have a law enforcement version, we have a military version, but they're going to be expensive. And the nice thing is you can't accidentally grab them because they're in like a Mylar coated
package.
package.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I carry them in my IFAC.
Exactly.
Because game highly recommended from my medical trainer.
And we were the ones that when we did the prepper garage sale.
Yep.
We were using demos because they were nice enough to send them to us.
And just shove it in there as fast as you could.
Exactly. We got everybody covered in blood. It was great.
Oh yeah, it was good. Fun time.
Ruined some people's
guys.
everything.
Let's get ugly. What happens if you use one of these things wrong? You're not trained and you didn't do it right. What could happen?
So it depends on the orifice of the body. So really it depends on what the wound is. So let's say we have a penetrating wound or a sucking wound in the chest. We don't want to stick anything in that hole, actually. So then we get into what's called an occlusive dressing. So an occlusive dressing, when
You hear what he just said? You get smoked in the chest. Don't go jamming fucking tampons in there.
Don't put a finger in there. And please do not put tampons anywhere it's supposed to be used.
Yeah.
It is probably one of the biggest things in the medical industry that it has a purpose. And if you want to know why, go to
Ask your
Walmart
wife.
and read about the box and read about toxic shock syndrome, and you'll understand why we don't use them for bloody nose or bullet holes.
Yeah.
And I know I'm going to make somebody very mad, and I'm not trying to, but again, it comes down to training. It comes down to investing in. I have the coolest gear. I have a $1,000 plate carrier and a $1,000 backpack.
I'll have that.
I have, a
So that's all he's
$500.
ever gonna buy, though.
I have a $500 optic on my rifle that I've never trained with. But the thing that actually is you're going to use more often, an 84% likelihood actually, is going to be life-saving basic skills, and it's usually going to be home. So that's my personal opinion. Again, it's my opinion.
All right, let me check the chat here. POTB says quick clot powder is no bueno. Get the gauze. Very true,
Perfect.
POTB. That is not, you don't want to be, for every granulate you shove inside yourself, the surgeon has to take every single one of those out. I know they started making this stuff so it would show up on x-rays just so they could make sure that they got all those pieces out because that's just going to lead to infection down the road. So when the medic recommends Z-Fold gauze, I bet you could probably find that at North American Rescue as well. Look for Z-Fold. I believe they call it Combat Z-Fold.
Yeah,
gauze.
and actually on the Stop the Bleed site, they actually have Stop the Bleed kits.
Ah,
Very
perfect.
similar to the
There
ones
you
that
go.
we use in training for places of learning, I guess is the most appropriate way I could say that we actually have them in emergency services. We have them pre-built out, and we have them in our emergency vehicles. And God forbid we have to respond to one.
Mhm.
It comes with a tourniquet and some stop the bleed material.
Excellent.
And a lot of them have instructions in there. So in a large situation, we can have maybe an injured conscious person render care to themselves and a fellow person because they can open up the instructions and it's very
Wonderful.
ABC.
Wonderful. What was it? What was that? Was stopthebleed.org?
StopTheBleed.org. I make 0 commissions off of that.
Did you mention it's a Department of Defense initiative?
So Stop the Bleed came from the United States military. So most of the things that we do in the medical field were funded by the United States military. So a really dumb fact that nobody cares about is I'm going to age myself. In the movie Dumb and Dumber,
Yep.
when the guy passes out in the taco restaurant, right?
Yep.
And Jim Carrey grabs his legs and goes out with the bad air and with the good. That was CPR way back in the day. And to make things even
Just
weirder,
to show you how much things have changed, guys.
in MASH, when they used to punch somebody in the chest, that's called a cardiac thump, and that is
The old ways,
actually
the old
still
ways.
in the New York State paramedic protocols.
I remember him doing that to the dude in Platoon when he was punched.
Yes.
Yep.
And there's a protocol in New York State if you a paramedic can punch you in the chest.
There you go.
Whatever
Never
you
seen
think's
it
gonna
done,
work, man.
though.
I'm gonna chest thump you.
But yeah.
So Virginia Bushcrafter says, "What should you use?" I think we just answered that for you, Virginia Bushcrafter. I hope so. Let's see. Ripkin says, "Big body folks would benefit from a SWAT tourniquet that open up much further and have more Velcro to secure, but most folks, both medically trained, cannot use a cat easily. Get training. That's what it comes down to, guys. Get medical training."
I agree with that, but I just want to. So when we started last year, and I got to come out and hang out with these guys and gals, we had totally different groups of people from crazy different jobs and lifestyles. Yeah. And by the end of the first day, I was able to get every single person that took the class, and we hadn't even done Stop the Bleed yet. Stop the Bleed was on day 2 at the end. We had everybody at the Hudson Valley Prepper group be able to self-deploy a tourniquet within 15 seconds, which is actually really good for people that haven't done it. And the way that we did it is we would be sitting around having lunch because one of the gentlemen, can I say his name?
Oh yeah,
Steven, great chef.
Chef Steve.
And we would be sitting there having a conversation, or we would be going over material, and somebody would just get a tourniquet thrown at them and say, "You just got shot in the leg," or "You took a penetrating injury to the arm. Deploy your tourniquet." And we just did that consistently. There's lots of videos out there where a father, I wish I had the thing, I was kind of on the spot tonight, walks into his daughter's bedroom and says, "I just got hit in the leg," and the daughter, probably 10 years old, is deploying a tourniquet correctly on her dad.
Excellent.
So it's all about repetition and in using the things that you might have to use under duress.
Yeah,
when
all
you're
the time.
calm.
All the time. So that way it becomes second nature.
Absolutely.
They say that, when things get really bad, you fall back on your training.
Absolutely.
So if you don't have quality training, you're going to fall back on a bunch of bullshit that you thought you knew. And, sometimes bad outcomes happen, guys.
Do not drink your own pee.
Do not do no Bear Grylls.
No Bear Grylls. Do not do that. Do not.
He filtered it through a t-shirt. What?
Will you demonstrate for us?
Yeah, give me your t-shirt.
He said, the POTB says, "Could you imagine if you used the powder during a rightly timed gust of wind?" Whew. So Stop the Bleed Stop Bleed recommended. Z-Fold gauze is recommended. Stop the Bleed classes are recommended.
Correct.
And it's at stopthebleed.org.
And we actually just held one. So if everybody chiming in tonight or just watching would like to pay attention to what our company does, you can go on our website, www.strategicetc.com, or Facebook folks. We'd love for you to like us. We're a first responder-owned organization located right in upstate New York, but obviously we travel. You can go to facebook.com. I think it's a / is how what that little thing is.
Yeah, it might be.
Whatever slash.
You're looking for
strategic
ETC.
And
all
we
the way across the board,
we actually
guys.
just held a free Stop the Bleed class there last weekend.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
1-hour course, doesn't cost you a penny. Usually we'll feed you. So
Yeah, the powder is a no-no, guys. The old granulated quick clot that you guys have, get rid of it. Get rid of it. It's, I mean, if you had to, you could. If you're looking at it for SHTF medicine, that's another story. You're probably not going to want to use it because it's going to lead to infection down the road.
Absolutely.
And unless you guys have a surgeon in your mag or your tribe or your group, or you yourself are a surgeon, that's not something you really want to be getting into, guys. So Z-Fold gauze, Z-Fold quick clot gauze. Hang on. Rip up a shirt and wrap up a stick. Even a belt can be used. That's correct, Michelle the Great. Any way to tourniquet if you need to. Rapture Weddy, good way to do it. Shock therapy training. Interesting. What's happening, Mr. Chrisman? How are you?
Tell me more about shock therapy training.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah, I'm not. Well, there was a question about using perhaps a maxi pad externally to try and stop bleeding. Is that something, SHTF medicine?
Dude,
I
we
guess
have a
anything's
gauze
gauze
patch
if you're
for
brave
that.
enough,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I mean, anything can be anything if you're brave
if
enough.
you're brave
It
enough.
sounds like a maxi pad would be smaller than like your typical. Like,
And
just
the
count
nice
your
thing is
Israeli bandage.
that would stay on the outside, so that's
Yeah.
nice. Israeli
They got the
bandage.
wings. They got the
Israeli bandage is made on the outside. It's also a pressure dressing, which is awesome.
Yeah.
I think we actually deployed one when we did your guys' training.
Yeah, I had an old one that.
Yes,
you
yeah,
wanted
we
to tear up.
we took it
Yeah.
out, we played with it, we went over how it used.
That's it.
So again, this is just a conversation for entertainment purposes only. Have to say that. DOH, leave me alone. If that's all you absolutely had, then use what you have. I can tell you that we can use t-shirts, we can use sweatshirts. The closer to the color white that we can get is
The better. Okay.
because less dyes.
Gotcha.
And that's an old school first aid trick. That's why a lot of old timers carry white bandanas. They
Gotcha.
always have it. But
White
again,
cotton bandanas.
White cotton bandanas.
Is there a fabric that is no?
Nylon's not super absorbent. Really, anything that can kind of disintegrate. So like wool would be a hard no.
Okay.
Well, like maybe if I was wearing like an undershirt and that's all I had. I mean, look at the New York City. You can look at the videos. I mean, that gentleman looked like all he had was a t-shirt.
Yeah.
And he was controlling bleeding.
Yep, with a t-shirt.
So you may at that moment you can make some things work that are not working normally.
All right. So POTB wants to know about after tourniquet care in a shit hit the fan situation.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
So that's a really hard one, and I'm not going to speak out of school. I refuse to give you bad information or to speculate.
Very good.
All I can tell you is I can tell you this. When we deploy a tourniquet, in emergency services or fellow emergency service personnel really aren't taking them off. We're bringing them to a higher level of care to make that final decision. At the end of the day, you deployed a tourniquet as a last-ditch effort for a reason.
Yep.
There's a lot of things that can go south, especially if we really hunker down and put a tourniquet on correctly, especially over an artery, so our femoral or brachial, and we've stopped blood flow to the limb. A lot of bad things can happen
Absolutely.
if we are not prepared to the outcome. So you really have to ask yourself, what preparations can I make in advance to do that? I feel like a politician because I refuse to answer. But I don't want to put out bad information because
Yeah, every
I don't-
situation is different.
it's so
and-
different.
We get to,
it's
with
so
the bug
different.
out bags a lot. We resort to telling folks that like you got to do what works for you at the
Yeah.
time.
The nice thing is a lot of folks think that once the tourniquet's on, that limb's gone. That's really not the case anymore.
Yeah, no.
We can deploy a tourniquet. We just have to have someone at a much higher level of medical care to deploy it. If you're in an SHTF situation and you're deploying a tourniquet, that person's already most likely in a very bad situation.
Correct. Correct.
I mean, perfect example of that is, regardless if you like the weird named group of people,
Mhm.
when the gentleman or the person was hitting the leg with a rubber item with
Mhm.
force, and they're applying a tourniquet, he's screaming, "I don't want to lose my leg." They were actually started off deploying the tourniquet correctly. It was in the right position and the right spot. The problem is that person, while they were classified as medical, obviously didn't assess the patient's injury.
Yeah.
It was basically
A bruise.
a rub burn.
Yeah.
You know, a high-speed rub burn.
Didn't exactly need a tourniquet for that.
No, he needed maybe a juice
So-
and some coloring books.
POTB, I think after tourniquet care is you guys are going to be searching for a higher level of care
Correct. In my
immediately.
At the very least, if I'm right, you need to release it or something once in a while or
No,
something?
no. Once the tourniquet is on, it's on. One of the things that emergency services, and this is what we see a lot in all communities, and it's not just this community, it's in most communities, what's tactical,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
like,
everybody wants to have the cool stuff.
so like
You
a
gotta
black,
have this super cool black tourniquet.
yes. But what happens when you can't see it?
Correct.
So all of our tourniquets that I carry in my EMS company and that I carry in my vehicle and for myself, it's orange. It's fluorescent orange. I want to make sure that if I'm in a situation where a tourniquet is deployed on me, when I get to an ER, they see it. They know where it is. There's no question he has a tourniquet on.
And there's you always write the time that
Yes.
you employ the tourniquet.
Absolutely.
And
Why?
on the forehead. Correct.
So we're right on the forehead because we can see that. So in an emergency service situation, when we get you to the hospital, especially if you're coming in from a trauma, it's called being trauma naked. Literally, all of your clothes are removed from you so we can see everything.
Yep.
Because somebody might have missed something. You got to
Gotcha.
keep in mind, in a lot of situations, especially in rural areas where we rely on volunteer first responders, you might only have one person in the back of that ambulance that's rendering all of the care. And shout out to all the first responders,
yeah.
fire,
Thank you all
EMS,
so
law
much,
enforcement,
so
healthcare,
much.
corrections officers, United States military. Thank you. You know, I'm not talking any smack.
A lot of us wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you, or we'd
Absolutely.
be speaking a foreign language. So
Absolutely.
salute to you.
If you
Thank
can
you.
read, thank a teacher, right? If you
Yeah.
can read in English,
Yeah,
thank a veteran.
soldier. Thank a soldier.
So you want to stay away from the tactical stuff. Like even in the EMS industry, the C collars, so the spinal control collars that we see at car accidents, we can go get tactical ones in like OD green or black.
Right, right.
But there's really not a big purpose for that unless you're working in a hot zone consistently. So
Yeah, yeah. And hopefully you're never in that situation.
any of us.
I know POTB, it has a lot of time in the service, and
Thank you for your service.
thank you, POTB. We appreciate you, my friend. Let's see, what about snake bites?
So snake bites are weird. First of all, never suck the venom out of anyone, especially you, because you're just waiting for that chance. I can feel it.
They suck my venom. They're gonna.
So there's a couple of different things that we can do. So first of all, if you take training with me, we do cover snake bites in our training.
Yep.
And that's basic level training too, and that's through ASHI, so the American Safety Health Institute. In their course, which is different than some of the others, we have add-ons that we can have additionally, and snake bites, spider bites, and tick bites are one of those add-on videos that we can play.
Excellent.
And they kind of touch base on some of the snakes that you might. And I am not a snake expert, so please do not assume that I believe that I am.
It's called a herpetologist.
Herpetologist?
Are you messing with me? Is that what
No,
it's
that's
called?
what a snake.
How do you know that?
The Livingston Man is.
Oh my goodness! Good
Yeah.
for you.
Data from Star
He is
Trek.
in there. He is in there. Rapture Ready says, "Don't bite the snake."
Do not bite the snake.
No.
If you can get a picture of it. So a couple of things. First of all,
Try to cut his head off, even or whatever. Bring a piece of it with you.
No, we're not.
What if it's like on you, won't let go?
I mean, if you get that mad and somebody else can kill the snake out of revenge for you, like by all means, but make sure it's dead before
I'm
you
just
touch
spelling
it.
misses though, because I'm just pulling out memories of like them saying if you have to try to bring a piece of this thing with you to the hospital so they know what. It
Really,
was.
we want to see pictures. Like if we can get as many.
So they were see that's how old I am, folks. My training was from days when you couldn't just pull out a picture.
There's
Yeah.
like coral snakes.
Very true.
I believe it's coral snakes. When they bite, they actually chew when they're biting. I believe it's coral snakes. Or pit vipers.
That
Pit
one's-
vipers are poisonous.
That one's getting his head cut off.
That was But really, what you want to do, hopefully, you're not the one bit, or if you are, there's a means of egress from the situation.
Okay.
I.e., somebody can easily put you in a car, or if you're on a bicycle, a lot of people are on mountain biking.
Get you to where you're going.
You can coast and use as little blood flow as possible, i.e., you're not exerting yourself.
Okay.
So it's not traveling through the body so fast.
So basically, you get bit by a snake, you want to calm down and stop pumping that venom through.
Exactly. There are some devices out there. There actually are snake bite kits.
Yep. Sawyer actually makes them.
Yes, and usually I believe it has like a very high-end razor blade, and there's instructions, 2 incisions, and you take a device that actually will
extract
pull
it.
the venom out. Now,
Yep.
in New York State, as far as working in emergency services, it's not a part of our protocol.
Right.
So I am not an expert in that. I don't have enough information
Gotcha.
in the field to give you a good answer.
Well,
But-
thank you for the advice that we
You're
did
welcome. So do your research in your area and find out what snakes and spiders,
live in your
you
neck
might
of the
have.
woods. Yeah.
especially brown recluses up where we are.
We got the Black Widows and everything.
Yeah, I got so many spiders in my place. I'm gonna set the
crawls.
place on fire. I mean, I'm gonna call an exterminator.
So, Foxfire has a question. What is the one skill you use most in the field?
Empathy.
Empathy.
Yeah, just having a conversation with your patient and treating him like a human.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of what emergency services is really destined to be, is having a conversation. And honestly, having a conversation, not only will you get more out of your patient by being polite and treating them as an equal or human, but you can have a really good patient outcome. Regardless of what's going on. A lot of times, just having a conversation with someone that's maybe even in crisis, or has it been in a car wreck? Maybe it's we've had a vehicle with a fatality in the vehicle,
Yeah.
and the passenger is evacuated, or there's a vehicle compartment fatality, and you get on scene, and the patient's already out of the vehicle, and just having that conversation and keeping your patient calm, and if you can find a subject they like to talk about.
Yeah, keep them talking.
Exactly, you keep their interest. So that's honestly my skill that I use the most, is just having a conversation, and then with that conversation, I can really. I think a lot of EMS and fire and police professionals will agree. You can really start to digest what needs to be done, and that might be some medical care. It might be getting them to where they need to be safe. It's
also finding out if they got a head injury. If they start
head
talking
injury.
the gibberish, all of a sudden something ain't quite right.
Absolutely. But I think really the big thing is just being empathetic towards another human, regardless of the way you feel.
That's a great answer, man.
In my opinion. In my opinion, I don't speak for emergency services. As a
He
whole.
is a professional, guys. Professional.
That's right. Thank you.
Let's see. We got. Mama Bear says, "Thank you so much for the important information. I need to catch the rest later. Have a great night. Have a great night, Mama
Thanks
Bear.
for coming.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Only 8
Santiago.
minutes left.
How are you, buddy? Good to see you here. Santiago came to the Bug Out Bag weekend, man. It was awesome to have him out there. It was his first time doing anything like it, and he came out and did the thing. Santiago, you're the true
Very
hero
nice.
of the Bug Out Bag weekend, man. I appreciate you, my friend. Thank you, Santiago, for coming out. Virginia Bushcrafter, thank you so much.
Thanks for having us. Thanks for having me.
Let's see what else we got. Snake bite. Any more questions, guys? Any more questions for Travis? We kidnapped him tonight. I lured him with good pizza.
It was really good pizza.
It worked.
Damn good.
It
was
worked.
good pizza.
But if you guys have any more questions for Travis, we got about 8 minutes left. Scenarios, whatever you get. Can we reminisce about the sternum rub talk?
Was that Steven?
No, but somebody who obviously has taken a Travis class.
I mean, what part of the sternum rub are we
Yeah.
really getting at here? I mean, like, do you want the story of when the entire ER side-eyed me? is that the story that we're looking for,
Yeah.
or why we don't? That's the story.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a pretty horrible story, actually. So a couple of years ago, my brother, who's a little bit older than me, a lot older than me, came down to my house. We were there for a little while, just moved in. He brought absinthe, which is legal in the United States, by the way. There's no worm in it. And we were playing Cards Against Humanity, which always is a great story.
Fun.
It's like when somebody says, "Hold my beer and watch this." It's basically what Cards
That's
Humanity
Cards
is.
Against Humanity.
So we drank in excess, and me and my wife went to bed, obviously inebriated, and I woke up a couple hours later to my entire bed vibrating. And while I was excited to be told I was being taken advantage of, I look over, my wife's having a seizure.
Oh Lord.
So unfortunately, she's having a seizure, and it took me a minute to realize what was going on. So in emergency services, we have what's called the sternum rub. We do not teach that in our courses, so please do not do this.
You didn't hear it here, folks.
Disclaimer, this is not allowed. In most states, you can get in trouble for it, so please don't do it. But a sternum rub is basically when you take the knuckles of your hand, put it in the person's chest, put some pressure down, and you go back and forth in their
Against
stomach
the ribs.
to get a painful reaction, painful stimuli. So my wife's having a seizure. She doesn't have a seizure history, and first thing I did was I gave her a sternum rub. And being a little bit inebriated, I probably put a little more pressure than I needed to or normally would have. Well, she comes out of the seizure, and I'm like, okay, we're good. Unfortunately, people that have seizures it's pretty rough.
Yeah.
So she gets out of her. Then we have 2 more seizures after that. So it's official. Like, this was not a one-time thing.
Yeah.
We need to get
Something's going on.
We need to get her checked out professionally by people way smarter than me. So we called the local ambulance. They came out. They brought her to the hospital. My brother-in-law gave me a ride. I get there. I work with most of these people. They all know who I am. I'm not allowed in the room, and everybody's giving me a side eye. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like,
Interesting.
what did I do to make everybody mad at me? So I finally get let into the room with their permission, and she just starts laughing at me. And I go, what is so funny? And she opens up her gown, and the entire center of her chest, kind of going outward, is black and blue.
Oh.
And they asked her if she was in a safe place because they thought that I punched her in the chest.
Gotcha.
And she had to explain to them, no, we were both in emergency services. She's a medic as well. And he gave me a sternum rub because I was having a seizure.
Yeah.
But I don't think they believed her because
that's exactly what an emergency service.
For a while, everybody was kind of giving me the side eye, and then everybody thought it was the funniest thing in the entire world. A couple of weeks later, when
once
they realized I was being serious,
he really wasn't punching on his wife.
So it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel bad. She was a great sport about it. I mean, but it was an adventure,
So
to say the least.
we have one more question here from Foxfire. She says, "What about burns?"
Oh, so burns are weird. So we've always gone by 1st, 2nd, and 3rd degree burns.
Okay.
And then we switched over for a while to superficial, partial thickness, and full thickness, which is basically the same thing. So 1st degree burns, we always really want to consider like a high level sunburn. Is really what a superficial burn is.
Okay.
It's really like the top layer.
Just red skin.
Yeah, it's really skin. It's hot to the touch.
Feels better if you blow on it.
Really.
A little bit.
Can we switch seats? I have a sunburn on my head. I don't got a lot of hair up there, man. You might make me feel kind of way. But sunburns, and it can turn into a level 2 burn or 2nd degree burn because you can get blistering.
Yeah.
Big thing is never disturb the blistering ever. There's actually healing going on underneath them, and we can cause an infection.
Okay.
And then we have 3rd degree burns. So 3rd degree burns are where the skin can actually become black, might even appear to be white, and then usually it will be within other burns. So you might. So I mean, perfect example.
A 1st degree with a 2nd or 3rd on it.
So what are some things that we're worried about when we're doing the campouts? Right, is someone getting too close to the fire?
Yep.
Breathing in the smoke, passing out hands first.
Okay.
Right, that's what we're concerned of.
Yep.
It actually happened on Survivor almost a decade ago.
No kidding.
The guy, I don't know what episode it was, years and years ago. You can Google it if you want.
Leaning over the fire to warm up.
He got blown into smoke, blew in his face. He passed out, landed in the fire.
Oh.
He ran into this very nasty river that they had, which is going to come into handy in a minute. And he put his arms in the water to stop the burning. When he pulled his arm, the skin was falling off.
Oh.
Okay. So it can happen. The one of the big takeaways, first of all, never rip away clothing. Cut it away.
Okay.
If it's embedded in the skin, leave it alone. Do not. Somebody better than us will deal with it.
Synthetic fabrics will melt.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. When I go camping, I always have a jug, a 1 gallon of the big milk jugs of water, and it says first aid on it.
Okay.
Why?
Well, you need.
Put you guys in the spot. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I have it set off to the side, and we never use it. And the reason we never use it, not even to put out the fire, is because I want to know that I have potable water with me the entire time if something happens.
Yeah, to be able to clean up with, guys.
Exactly. Because what happens if someone is raking the coals because they think the fire's out and somebody trips because we're packing all of our stuff up, which nobody ever trips. I know I have, and I've actually caught my hands on the perimeter of the campsite stove, and luckily I didn't get hurt, but that's what I do. And the other big thing, do either of you have any aloe vera for a sunburn?
Oh, yeah.
Is it in your refrigerator?
No.
Why? Did somebody teach you not to put it in your refrigerator?
No, I just thought it was shelf stable.
It is shelf stable. So a lot of folks will put aloe vera in the refrigerator because they think it's going to feel better when they put it on a sunburn. You can actually cause some issues with it being so cold because the skin is very, very sensitive.
You know,
Okay.
you notice that even when you get a sunburn, you feel cold.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the number one thing I recommend for sunburns is actually having an aloe vera plant in your house.
Yeah.
They are amazing. It's natural, no
Room
added
temperature.
chemicals.
Super weird looking plant, like it's got little spines.
It'll
on
grow
it.
forever.
And
It's a
you
desert
can't kill
plant.
it, and you just break pieces of it off if you need be, and like, really
Absolutely.
apply it directly.
Rick S wants to know if a Walmart rat's tourniquet is okay to buy, or should he wait and get from American Rescue? My opinion, buy the rats now and order the North American Rescue. That way you have two. Because as we discussed earlier, the rats work great for kids.
Yeah.
And the cat tourniquet is going to work great for all your adults.
Absolutely.
So that my opinion would be buy them both.
And
my
then train
opinion.
on them.
Exactly.
I was going to add
Exactly.
that if you don't know how to use one,
Learn.
And you can use a pool noodle.
Okay.
It's a great way to do training. Right now with the pools coming out,
Okay.
you can get them for a couple of bucks, get a pool noodle, and then if you have some extra tourniquets, everybody in the family can sit down and have a training night, and we'll just do basic first aid stuff. So
very
what
good.
happens if we have a fire in our house? Where are we gonna escape to?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
grandma,
you have your
grandma's
meeting
house.
spot. Who are you calling?
Exactly. The stuff that they taught us in elementary school that we don't do anymore.
Exactly.
And you can have a fun night about it. Like you can watch whatever movie that you and your family like,
Mhm.
and then every time this character walks into the room, everybody has to deploy their tourniquet on their noodle. You can make it so it's not
Make a game.
so it's not so traumatizing or scary. You can have some fun with it, and then God forbid you ever have an emergency. Because parents, we can usually speak to our kids calmly if we're under distress. We can say, I need you to deploy the tourniquet right now on my left leg, just like we did that movie night. And you can they're gonna get their confidence
So
from you.
the hole in the pool noodle is what you're trying to completely
Yep,
constrict.
and you're gonna
right?
do it. Yeah, it
Okay.
just gets you good training on how to use it.
Yep,
Absolutely.
how to crank it down, how to tighten it, and maybe you might not want to write on Daddy's forehead what time it is when you do it. Just write it on a piece of paper and hand it to him. When the real deal happens, you get to write on Dad's forehead. So
can I ask you a personal question of my own?
absolutely.
I am a terribly squeamish person.
Mhm.
Is there, besides get over it, what advice you got for me and everybody else who wasn't man enough to admit that they get sick with
It's Kool-Aid. What's
at
the
the
problem?
sight of this?
That's it. It's just Kool-Aid. That's it. You have to tell yourself that's just Kool-Aid.
Okay.
That's it. It's just red Kool-Aid. Somebody spilled
There you go.
Kool-Aid on that wound. That's it.
See, Rick, you already have the pool noodle, so you're on your way, my friend.
Nice shot, Rick.
Practice, 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 brother. And like Travis was saying earlier, we make a game out of it. Kind of a game out of it.
Yeah.
And we test each other. I don't want to say to somebody who I know doesn't have a tourniquet that, oh, you just got a chunk of glass through your left leg and you're bleeding out from your femoral artery, and watch them freak out trying to find one. I will throw a tourniquet at you and tell you what happened and where you should put it, and practice, guys.
Even when we did the garage sale.
Yeah.
Jason, I walked over to him and said, "You just got shot in the leg," and boom, he deployed it. Did the same thing
Yep.
to you. Boom, he
Yep.
deployed it.
Yeah, he caught me in the parking lot.
I did.
guys.
It
He
wasn't
caught me
even.
in the parking
Wasn't
lot.
even second. It was just second nature. He was told what happened, and he immediately deployed
Yep.
his tourniquet because he's done it over and over again. So he knows if this happens, this is what I do.
Yep.
I don't even gotta think about
And
it.
of course, he was nice enough to stop me before I got the full road.
I did. I
He's
was
like,
nice.
okay.
I don't want anybody to hurt themselves.
Because it's pinchy, guys. It hurts. It hurts. And when you're deploying one of those things, your patient's probably going to scream. They're probably going to cry. And you're going to tell them it's all for the best. And, just kind of talk them through it. Like Travis said, compassion.
Absolutely.
Apologize till you're blue in the face, but keep cranking that thing until the blood stops pumping, guys. That's the big one.
All right. Total fictional scenario. For whatever reason, God has commanded that when you go to your truck, you can only grab one thing. What is it?
Me?
Yep.
I'll grab my jump bag. You didn't specify. I couldn't grab that.
Okay, so one physical item. Is there? Where I'm going with this is I see a lot of people are worried about tourniquets.
Yeah.
Is that practical? Although, well, of course, I don't mean to say is it practical, but I mean
Yeah.
from an everyday standpoint,
Is that the
like
most
you-
important piece of kit? This is a tourniquet?
I think having a well-rounded basic kit with
Okay.
with what you're most likely to have, because a lot of tourniquets actually have molly on, or a lot of the kits have molly on the outside.
Yeah.
So I can attach a tourniquet to the outside of my molly bag.
Absolutely.
So like my medic, if anybody is interested in my medic stuff, let me know. We're a distributor. Get you
Travis
good
will
prices.
take care of you, get you some equipment.
But it really, so when we have, and we can also get really custom. So
Okay.
like, we work with folks that do a lot of surveying.
Okay.
And one of the big things their company wanted was they wanted them trained not only how to use an IFAC, but also how to use a tourniquet because they're alone a lot.
Yeah.
So they're in the woods and they might be a mile or 2 miles in and they have to get back to their
you
truck.
fall on one of those surveyor pieces of rebar, man. It's a bad day.
Absolutely. And
That's
a
a bad
tourniquet
day.
is great for a lot of situations because what if I don't need it for what it's meant for? So what if I'm out in the woods and my ATV completely disintegrates and dusk is coming, right? So like I know where I am, but I know how long it's going to take me to get to where I need to be. I have to hunker down for the night.
Okay.
Well, I got my first aid kit, my tourniquet. So I can go around and I can humble sticks together to start a fire.
All right.
And I could try to hold them. Or I could take my tourniquet out, right? My combat tourniquet, and I can get a big pile of sticks together, rated what this is to do is to stop bleeding on a man's thigh, a woman's thigh.
Right. So you're getting yourself.
I can get a big
bundle.
pile of sticks in a bundle, and then I can set that down, start a fire, or at least have it, get my shelter involved. So you can use a lot of your equipment,
Multiple
not
use
necessarily
items,
what
guys.
it's made for,
Think outside the box.
but it's practicing.
Yeah.
It's about practicing the
Yep.
use. But honestly, a good old-fashioned IFAC is just a really good baseline. It's small, it's compact, it's what you need for most situations: Band-Aids, tape, gauze, your bleeding control stuff, and your tourniquet.
Yep.
And then like a little, little rechargeable light or little
Yeah.
snap-on
See what you're doing.
flashlight.
Yep.
It's perfect, and you can stay away from the Walmart first aid kits. They're great for your house. They're horrible for your car.
You end up with those things every time I've ever encountered when you get 100 fucking Band-Aids
Yes.
and like
Yeah.
Q-tips
Yes.
and you're done. Like, like I pulled one out in that bug out bag video. That was a bona fide Walmart shit ass first aid kit. It had like 12 bandages
That
and
was
some
my
Q-tips.
first aid kit, man. I'm just joking.
But that was from a pre-bought, like, one of these all-in-one
Yeah.
kits, and that's what I got from that. And anything worse than some pricker bush attacking me, and I'm not really gonna.
But you bought what you could afford at the moment.
I got
Yeah.
it for Christmas, so I mean, let's
Yeah.
call it that.
And something is better for Christmas.
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean, it was just a Christmas
Yeah.
gift.
Well, something's always better than nothing.
Absolutely.
But if you guys can get yourself some quality medical equipment to go along with your medical training, you guys are going to be that much further along. And Travis can also help you with that. He is a My Medic distributor. www.strategicetc.com. Check him out. He's got everything on the site. He has everything you could need, any kind of training that you could really want medically.
OSHA compliance, everything.
Yeah.
Bloodborne pathogens. We're getting more and more requests.
He's
for
got
that.
it all. Carbon Q, how are you, sister? Chrisman says that he cried when you tossed the tourniquet at him. He knew what was coming. He
Yes.
knew what was coming.
Hey, you know what's funny
Is he
is
squeamish too?
he actually, I met him 8 years ago. Me and him were in a mutual web-based platform, and my original company, which was before Strategic, we were just getting into the training world, and we gave out 4 free CPR first aid training kits or trainings, and he won one, and I got to go out to his home.
I gotta tell you, he wins a lot of stuff, man.
He does.
You guys hang around
He
that
does.
Chrisman because
Speaking of that,
he's always winning.
we need to meet up so I can get my backpack,
Ooh, gotcha.
which I'm actually going to stock and then redonate to Hudson Valley Preppers in Survival, and we're going to give it away at one of the meetings that come out to for somebody that's attending some
I
training.
have Refuse Medical IFAC. Was that a Refuge Medical IFAC, Rick? The Bear Independent one. I think that's what you're talking about. They're a great IFAC.
Absolutely.
He
Now,
all
I know what
North
you guys are
American
saying.
Rescue, I believe.
Yeah.
Now there, maybe I'm not up on the lingo here, but there's a military IFAC, the individual first aid kit.
Yep.
Now that kit is specifically designed for gunshots and penetrating wounds only.
Well, they're all, the IFAC is just such a
And then there's
broad term.
right. Then IFAC
Yeah.
turns into individual first aid kit, like
Yes,
your
yes.
first aid kit.
We're real, so a lot of it, even on plate carriers, we're carrying IFACs. My Medic, and if you don't see it on our website and you see one on My Medic, just let us know. We can get you a better price on it. We can't advertise pricing below MSRP because we're in an agreement. So
Right.
if you email us and say, or you send a message into the
Yeah,
Facebook
if you
page,
need a bulk buy or something.
oh, absolutely. AEDs, if you're a company
Get
needs
a,
AEDs,
get a hold,
we can help you out
get
with
a
that
hold
too.
of Travis. He can help you with anything medical related.
And we offer financing and custom build. So if
Come
you,
on.
I was at a place today, and I think that we're going to discuss building them a custom first aid kit because they don't need this big fancy thing. And he was going to work for them.
Correct.
And while it sounds, custom's a lot of money. It's not. It's going to be an affordable.
Individualized. Is what
It's going to be destined
Yeah,
for them.
and Travis is a master at tailoring your training to
you
your
for that.
specific needs. You know what Hudson Valley Prepping and Survival needs isn't necessarily what somebody else is going to need.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, we're all diverse.
everything is kind of tailored to you. Of course, he has to go over certain curriculum, but he will absolutely go outside of the box with you. And
When available.
yeah,
So-
when he can.
So if you come to us and you say this is the curriculum we're looking for, if we point you to a direction, we're pointing to a direction because we have more freedom in our instructors' teaching abilities. We can go a little more in depth in things that maybe other curriculums wouldn't allow us to. So you get an experience for what you're taking the course for. So like I do a company way up north that does whitewater rafting adventures,
Excellent.
and they have to take a specific level of training. But we're really worried about more of the wilderness stuff. So snake bites, spider bites, and really drownings.
Gotcha.
We're very concerned about drownings and head injuries
Mm.
and long bone injuries because in the Hudson River, there's certain areas where the water is low. And that's why if you've
Yeah.
ever gone, they say, if you fall into the water, kick your feet up so you're floating so you don't impale on the bottom. Okay, because we're talking some of those areas can only
Swift
be
water. Yeah.
8 inches deep. So we do our best to talk to the companies when they work with us directly and find out what their needs are because you might not need some of this stuff. And if we can focus on what you have to have all of it, but if we can spend some more time on bleeding control or
Yeah.
wound care or working with people with asthma.
Whatever fits your needs, guys. If you have a
Absolutely.
group full of diabetics, Travis is going to help you tailor things towards diabetic emergencies.
Absolutely.
Things of that nature. Let's see here. Mr. Steve says, take your tourniquet out of the package and prep it for deployment. If you come to
Absolutely.
my event and your tourniquet is wrapped, the first thing I'm doing is tearing the wrap off it.
If you
Sorry.
come to our event, any of your gear is still in the package it came in. I'm gonna.
We're going to help you
I'll
unwrap
get
it,
you
guys.
Unless it's training, and then we'll go over it together.
Yeah, seconds count. You're not trying to open up the package and read the instructions.
Absolutely.
Do not leave your gear in the package, especially, well, certain medical gear stays in the package for sterilization purposes. Your tourniquet is not one of those
Stop the
items.
bleed kits are already pre-built so we can literally throw and go.
So when you get your tourniquet, it's going to be wrapped up in the packaging. It's going to be nice and tight. And when you go to deploy it, that thing is going to be shrunk down to nothing. You're going to have to open it up and pull it through. Those are seconds that you don't need to waste.
Agree.
I have mine set as large as it can go, and then I fold it back up and put it away. So that way, when I pull it out, all I have to do is slide it on, pull that thing, wrap it around, get my windlass going, and snatch it down real quick, and I'm good to go. So keep it open, keep it at the ready. That's common sense, folks. So I know it's almost a superpower nowadays, but we got to bring it back. We got to bring it back. That's a big thing. Travis, thank you, my friend. Thank you so much for coming out and doing this. I
Do we have
appreciate it.
any more
I have
questions? I know
appreciated
you guys are on a time frame, but
Well,
We ran over anyway.
I've had a
Yeah.
good time with this.
Hey,
I
we
really,
started
I really
late.
enjoyed it.
we're staying late.
You've
We
done really well
appreciate
so
you.
far.
I'm terrified.
Chrisman says,
Why?
yes, we do. He's got it in the truck. Hit me up.
Fantastic.
Rick said he wishes you were in Utah.
I mean, if you got enough people and you'll fly me to Utah,
He'll
we can,
truck it
we
out
can
to
make
Utah.
something happen. I've never been to Utah. Is Utah on Route 66?
No.
Oh, okay.
No,
I
sorry.
I want to do the Route 66 run this year.
Let's see.
I have no idea where it goes. I know it starts in Chicago.
I think it ends in
So,
California. somewhere.
broke ass prepper says, when bugging out to the woods, poison ivy, bug bites. Any suggestions that would help?
Oh, absolutely. So I'm horrible. the pink stuff.
Calamine.
Calamine is awesome.
Yep.
Okay. Long sleeves
Yep.
are key. Tweezers are going to be a big one to remove ticks.
Yeah.
If you guys are curious, something that I can give you right now for free, actually, is go on your phone, iPhone, Android, whatever you got. You can download the American Red Cross First Aid app free of charge. Doesn't cost you anything.
There you
You
go.
don't have to be a student. And one of the big things on there is tick bites and how we can remove ticks. The other thing that I'd like to recommend, and that's a great question, is the we used to call them leg gaiters back in the day.
Okay.
They're the ones that you put over your shoes. They basically cover up your ankle just below your knee.
Yep.
And those are great because ticks can jump upwards, so they can actually get
Okay.
not only up your up into your leg, but up to your groin area.
Gotcha.
I actually worked a motor vehicle accident with the state police, and the call was clear, and I was picking all my gear, and the state trooper was moving around his car pretty rapidly, and he came over and he goes, "You're going to want to check your parts because I just pulled a tick off." So they can travel up your pants pretty
They'll
high.
get you
and
guys. Those...
Male or female, they really don't care.
No,
If they can
no,
find
they
a spot, they're going to
don't.
get to it.
Any place to latch on.
So hope that's a good piece of advice for you, my friend.
The tick that gives you Lyme disease is the one that you didn't find.
Correct. Correct.
My
And
son has Lyme disease. I'm
you know,
super
there's-
lucky.
I'm like a
So the-
I
two-time
don't have it.
survivor. I get
the ticks
Lyme disease all the
nowadays
time.
are carrying some diseases that'll kill you.
The
Some
brain
of them
swelling
are-
one.
Yeah,
Yes.
Howison virus.
Yes.
Howison
Which is
virus
terrifying.
will kill you.
DEET. You have to have DEET.
Pre-treat your clothes, guys. Pre-treat your clothes with the Sawyer's
Yes.
permethrin. It works
I was
wonders.
just gonna
It
recommend
actually
that.
burns the tick's feet when they touch your clothing, so they bail off as fast as they touch you. That's Livingston Man told me how it works. I just know that the stuff works because
And
when
then
I
he
wear it,
told me.
I don't get ticks on me.
And make sure you let it sit for 24 hours outside. I learned that as well.
Oh,
By
Chrisman got
running
bit by a
insurance.
tick on the camping trip. I'm sorry, buddy.
He was
I'm
out
sorry.
digging in the shit fund in those caches, though. See, that's when you get
Yeah.
most fun things around.
Yeah, when you're in the brush, guys.
I'm
gotta-
very sad though. He didn't show anybody what was in the caches. Is it like?
So waiting on them to make
well,
their own channel.
You know, it's the same stuff. I actually loaded the cache in a video
I
previous.
saw that,
so-
but I saw you putting them out, but I didn't see a load them.
Well, there was one there where I was stuck.
Gotcha.
Yeah, when we built the whole thing, I stuffed most of it, and then the rest of it I kind of kept secret. You know, I didn't.
That's smart. I
I
like
didn't
it.
give off all the details, just some of them.
I like it.
But guys, thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Travis Medic, once
Thank you,
again.
I appreciate
I
it.
really appreciate you. Hopefully, we
Appreciate
can
it.
get you out again. We'll have him at the events. If you guys come to the live events, you're going to see Travis there at some point. If we can wedge him away from his work.
I try.
Um,
I try.
But thank you so much for being here. We are Hudson Valley Prepping and Survival, and we're going to catch you guys on the next one. Have a great one, folks.